I think he'll be fine. They're just going to monitor his workload. July is just kind of a time to, show what you know about the offense, and Luck knows the offense.
We're talking with Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, footballmaven.io/Eagles, live at the practice field. Is it the NovaCare? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, it's the NovaCare complex here in South Philly.
Yeah.
It's the football, the link is right across the street where they play on Sundays, and so is Citizens Bank Park where the Phillies play, and the Wells Fargo Center. Although I'm not sure it's called that. It might be, but it's the arena where the 76ers and the Philadelphia Flyers play too. I think it's called the Wells Fargo. It changes names so often it's hard to keep track. But yeah, it's right here in one facility. Yeah.
Looks like you've had a good off season. Some trips to the beach, graduation. Looks like a lot of good stuff happened in the off season. So happy for you on that aspect. But it's time to get back to work. Let's talk a little bit about the AFC South. Nick Foles, they're at Jacksonville. Obviously, Marcus Mariota at Tennessee. We look at the Texans. The AFC South is not the chump division that they once was. And, living here with the Indianapolis Colts, not literally with the Indianapolis Colts, we're in the AFC South, and, we're always going to be looking behind our back. And we had the division championship game in a Scopes last year. Can they repeat it? I don't know, but what are your thoughts? Jacksonville's got themselves Nick Foles, and, Marcus Mariota is starting to make a huge name down there in Tennessee, and of course they picked up the backup quarterback from down in Miami, whose name escapes me, but got a chance to talk with him at the
Ryan Tannehill. Yeah,
Ryan Tannehill, that's right. Really nice guy. I had a chance to talk with him at the Indianapolis 500 this year. What are your thoughts on the AFC South, sir?
Yeah, it's a very good division. The Texans, it'll be interesting to see. They don't have a general manager. You wonder about their leadership structure down there. Jadeveon Clowney isn't happy with his contract. I don't know. A lot of distraction down there in Houston, and distractions don't always translate into winning games. So, Houston might be one of those teams that might take a step back. Every year there's a team that rises, a team that falls. More than one or two of those teams rise or fall, and maybe the Texans are poised for a fall, but still you have the Titans the Titans, like you mentioned. The Eagles actually opened their preseason with them, so I'll get a little bit of a closer look at Tennessee and their roster on August 8th when the Titans open the preseason here in Philly, and then the Eagles go the following week to Jacksonville to meet Nick Foles, and I think the Jaguars will be better just because of Nick Foles. And some of the way, when you look at Nick Foles, he's a guy that's very laid back, very low key, very mellow, very good to be around. And, maybe some of that filters down into the locker room where, it's not always been a peaceful place in Jacksonville, that locker room, with Jalen Ramsey, always speaking up and things like that. But, maybe some of that Nick Foles swagger and laid back humbleness kind of rubs off on the Jags. So I think the Colts are going to have their hands full. It's going to be a good test for them to try to win that division because, to me, there are three other teams, and I'm not putting Tennessee or Houston in there. But I think Jacksonville and Tennessee will give the Colts a good run for their money. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. Carson Wentz just got intercepted by Camus Grugier-Hill. It's it looks like 7-on-7 or 7-on-7 work. So sorry, I got a little distracted. I wanted to see you pick that up.
That's fine. I was just literally listening to the background noise there while you were talking. It's really cool, and I appreciate you taking some time and giving us a call from the field. It's a really cool atmosphere there as well. The Cleveland Browns, all eyes are on the Cleveland Browns. Everybody's talking about the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield and company have arrived. If you talk to the Cleveland Brown fans, there's no sense even playing the season. We've already got the Super Bowl. Just go ahead and hand over the Lombardi Trophy. I don't know about all of that, but I think that they've got some good stuff in place, and they're going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I agree. And, talk about expectations. There's certainly a ton of them on the Cleveland Browns' shoulders. And, we'll see how that translates. Baker Mayfield, coming into his second season as the quarterback. We've seen in the past some of those Eagles, some of the quarterbacks that have taken that leap in their second year. Mitch Trubisky did it with Chicago, went from a losing record to 12-4 last year, and then Wentz did it from his rookie year when he went 7-9 to taking that team to home field advantage through the Super Bowl, through the playoffs, before he got hurt. So he made a big jump, and can Baker Mayfield make that big leap? Because really, it's going to be on him to take that team where it needs to go. Their defense will be good, but how will Mayfield, how will he get all those weapons that he has, that receiver involved? Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, players like that. And then the running game, how will they deal with the Duke Johnson distraction? He wants to be traded. Will he get his wish? Nick Chubb looks like he's poised to take off and, have a good season. So, there are expectations. That's going to be the main thing. And you have a new coach, right? Freddie Kitchens, a new first-year guy, but he was, on that staff as the offensive coordinator last year. So, the transition shouldn't be too tough to make. But we'll see. I mean, there are a lot of questions with the Browns. You can't anoint anybody in this league anything because you still have to play 16 games. You still have to stay relatively healthy. And you have to find a way to manage those expectations. So we'll see how the Browns do it. It's an unfamiliar position for them because, obviously they haven't been in the playoffs since, I don't know. I was in diapers maybe, which was a very long time ago. So we'll see. We'll see how they handle these expectations. It's a very unfamiliar position, but I like Mayfield. I think, you're right. They're going to be fun. They have some nationally televised games this year, which is rare for them. So we'll see how they handle all that. It's going to be unfamiliar territory. So that's the big thing for me is how do they handle those unfamiliar expectations.
The Lions released Theo Riddick after 6 seasons. What are your thoughts on that decision by the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like their pickup of Mike Daniels. They just signed Daniels to that 1-year deal after he was released by the Packers. He'll help that defense. Matt Patricia's a defensive guy, so, he gets another piece up front to play with. We'll see. They traded Golden Tate last year to the Eagles midway through the season. So I'm not really familiar with all the weapons the Lions have at this point. But what does Matthew Stafford have to work with? And, is Jim Bob Cooter the offensive coordinator there? I mean, what kind of game plans is he going to put together week in and week out to help them score points? I don't know. I'm not sure about the Lions. I think Matt Patricia, it's only his second year, but, they better start winning, and they better win early. And they come to Philadelphia, actually, in the third week of the season, the Lions. So, we'll see where they're at that point. But, to me, I like their defense a little bit better with that Daniels signing, but I'm not sure releasing Riddick, obviously, they're happy with that running back from Auburn. His name escapes me. But we'll see. I'm not sure the Lions are ready to make that step into the playoff realm yet. They play in a very tough division, the NFC North. And right now they look like maybe they're going to bring up the tail end of that division behind, the Vikings, Packers, Bears. Not necessarily in that order.
Right. Well, finally, let's talk a little bit about them Oakland Raiders, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders, if you will. John Gruden, Antonio Brown shows up in some sort of a balloon, some sort of a weird vehicle. I guess the showboating isn't over for Antonio Brown. It's only going to be a circus of whatever with the Oakland Raiders. So what are your thoughts? John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders go into 2019 as they get ready for the big debut in Vegas in 2020.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it's kind of a circus there, and John Gruden's kind of the ringleader of that circus. I've been on record before. I'm not sure Gruden has adapted to this game after being away for so long. We'll see this year if he is. They had 3 first-round draft picks that are going to have to come in and prove themselves. Will they be improved? The AFC West is so good with the Chiefs, the Chargers, who I like as a, kind of a possibility to get to the Super Bowl. San Diego now, of course, Melvin Gordon. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. That does not help the cause. But, yeah, I think the Raiders, again, they're a little like the Lions to me. I'm really not sure they're ready to make that step up into playoff contention yet. will they win more than what they win last year? Four or five games? I can't remember. Maybe a few more, but I can't see them finishing with more than 8 wins. Gruden still has a lot to show me, and then those rookies. Asking rookies to come in and play and contribute significant roles isn't always an easy thing to do. So we'll see how they're able to transition. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 2020 when they go to Vegas, they'll be kind of on that, ready to take that next step into playoff contention. And that's probably their goal is to, hit Vegas and be able to take the desert by storm, if you will, when they get there. And this will kind of be a building year, I think, towards that goal.
Been talking with Ed Kratz, who's calling us from the Nova Center there in Philly. Philadelphia Eagles beat writer. Thanks for giving us the call and giving us access there to hear the background of what's going on in training camp. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom? What are we looking at? What are some of the things, some of the stories you're working on this week? What are we looking at as camp develops and as we go into week 2 of camps with the NFL?
Yeah, as far as the Eagles go, there's tons of stories here. They have a lot of depth at wide receiver. But Matt Collins and Shelton Gibson, those are 2 guys that the Eagles drafted a couple of years ago. Can they make the roster? They have Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Deshaun Jackson. The top 3 spots, and that's pretty good. I expect maybe the Eagles might make a trade here at some point. Maybe trading to Nelson Aguilar. But, it's just going to kind of be watching practice here at the NovaCare and, kind of trying to develop some storylines as I'm watching the practice. Carson Wentz always, you want to keep an eye on him. And then the Eagles have this rookie quarterback they drafted, Clayton Thorson from Northwestern, who's out there now in 7-on-7, just made a nice throw to one of those receivers trying to make the team. So, just kind of watching it all unfold, Tom, and keeping an eye around the league as much as I can. Usually I get a little tunnel vision this time of year with the Eagles because I'm here every day. So, and I'm here for long hours. And when I'm done, I'm done. I don't want to have to go check out more football. So, but I try to keep an eye on the rest of the league as much as possible.
Well, I tell you what, I got somebody who called I didn't know they were calling, but he's a big fan of yours. He wants to say hello. Mr. Rick Riggin, how are you, sir?
Hey, pretty good, Tom. Hey, I wanted to catch you, Ed, before you escaped us for the day to do your football watching. But I just want to make a comment since you guys were talking about the king of the North, and that is the Lions. Matt Patricia looks like the guy that will order the turf and turf. And Kerryon Johnson is the running back's name that escaped you.
Thank you. Yeah, you called them the Kings of the North, Rick. Was that it? The Kings of the North?
Yeah, King of the Game of Thrones fan. I'm a Game of Thrones reference. I'm a Game of Thrones fan. So
okay.
Every King of the North dies. That's all I'm getting at. Every King of the North ends up dying. So.
Well, yeah, it could be a painful death in Detroit this year, unfortunately. Hey, but Rick, my son spent a month out there in Detroit. He's actually flying home today. He was out there training for a job. So he took in a Tigers game when the Phillies were out there, and I told him to keep an ear out for any Lions news. So I'll be interested to hear what he has to say when I pick him up at the airport later this afternoon.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Ed, I've been good talking. I've been keeping track of you on Facebook. Congratulations on everything you've done this year so far. And I was really jealous. A couple months back, you rented a Lamborghini or whatever it was down in Florida. How was that?
That was awesome. Yeah, well, I saw that too.
Yeah, I had good practice putting down the window and showing my driver's license every time I got pulled over by the police for speeding. But I don't know if you saw it too. I saw a McLaren in the Eagles parking lot here at the facility the other day. I put a picture of that on Facebook, and beautiful car. I think it belongs to Jalen Mills, but certainly I'm going to start a GoFundMe. I'm going to start a GoFundMe site and try and see if anybody wants to contribute to my next ride.
All right, guys. Speaking of ride, I got to roll on into the next segment here. Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, calls us from the Nova Care Center in Philadelphia. On the field with the Philadelphia Eagles, helping us break down camp. Rick Riggin, thanks for joining us. Are you going to stick around? Because if you want to stick around, you can. But we're going to get into some NASCAR talk, and then we can talk some college football after that. If you want to stick around, Rick.
Well, I'm going to tease college football. I actually have to go today, but a couple weeks, I'm going to be back at it here full time, college football here on the Balance.